Jesus is against Conor McGregor because of refugees and asylum seekers, apparently. Was representing Ireland on the biggest stage possible the other day. Conor McGregor has sent the Irish establishment liberal media into complete meltdown, and you love to see it. And the response, of course, was a slanted narrative plastered across the internet. Of course, it was predictable that the media in their entirety would only choose to report negativity surrounding Conor McGregor's representation of Ireland in the Oval Office with Donald Trump on St. Patrick's Day. Of course, they chose to expose themselves in this way because they're vile vermin scum. This video is going to be a wild one. We're going to cover a range of stories, going from Conor McGregor's ultimatum towards the Irish government last night. One of the main stories where the slander was put upon Conor McGregor, I'm going to debunk it very, very easily. And even the Catholic Church has rode in behind the despotic government, the corrupt media, to bolster the takedown of Conor McGregor. Before we get into it, if you can do me a favour, if you're new here, maybe hit subscribe, share the video. I'd really appreciate it. Cheers. I suppose the best place to start is with headlines like this, and I screenshot them because it's almost unbelievable, except for we know exactly what these pernicious vermin are about. A multitude of headlines, as I said, slanted, slandering Conor McGregor, 100% negativity across the board. He's spreading fear. He must be stopped. That is the message that went out in the bulletin on Patrick's Day. Unfortunately for the corrupt Irish government, polls show that more Irish people are behind what Conor McGregor had to say than they are behind the government. And they're just facts, undeniable. Of course, this didn't show up in the absolute sinister takedown attempt of Conor McGregor. So the tolerant left, the adults in the room, chose the ad hominem route for Conor McGregor and anybody that supported him, including myself. Calling Conor names, slandering him, defaming him, doing everything possible but addressing the actual issues that he brought up. But the only thing that the media actually achieved with all this slander in the last 24 hours was expose themselves for the double standards in which they operate in, trying to protect their precious democracy. How many times does Paddy and Bridie actually have to witness this tolerance and democracy that the government forced down our throats before actually understanding that it's in fact totalitarianism? I don't know what the memory capacity is for most of these people that probably push back against Conor McGregor after his visit to the White House the other day. This bastardized version of democracy saw the politicians in lockstep with the media, openly and overtly trying to excommunicate Irish people from society because of their beliefs and because of their opposite beliefs of what the government push. You remember 2020 during the pandemic when the government forced people to do certain things, when they threatened you by not being able to provide for your family, not being able to go to work, not being able to be part of society because you wouldn't do exactly as you were told to do. You remember that? I don't forget that. Remember how we moved over to the immigration crisis right after that one, and you were told to shut your mouth and welcome busloads of illegal migrants into your neighbourhood and shut the fuck up? Don't open your mouth because it's far right to do that, and we will actually smear you, condemn you and expose you for having an opinion. Over and over again we see this. Hospital crisis, climate crisis. You are told by your elected politicians who are there to give you a voice, to listen to what you have to say. You're just told to shut the fuck up, because if you don't, we're going to slander you in public, and we're going to use the long arm of this despotic government, which is the mainstream media here in Ireland, to do it. And we saw it transpire in the last 24 hours. Conor pushed back, he opened his mouth, he voiced what most Irish people are actually saying. Whether they like Conor McGregor or whether they hate him, a lot of people agree with him. Was any of his points addressed? They addressed one point and they made a huge deal of it. And RTE, the national broadcaster funded by the people, and remember, if you don't fund them, you go to prison. If you don't pay your license fee, you will have the police come to your door and take you off for a couple of days in prison. This is the tactics of the adults in the room and their precious democracy. So the national broadcaster premeditatedly chose to go after one little point that they thought they could refute or rebut. Everything else was swept under the rug. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about his past behaviour and criminal convictions and all this sort of malarkey. Again, fallacy after fallacy, ad hominem attack after ad hominem attack. Sad and pathetic and very, very childish, might I add. So here's where they thought to themselves, this is where we're going to expose what Conor said in Washington. This is where the Irish people are going to really understand that he was lying. So if we can prove this one lie, then we can prove everything to be a lie. McGregor's dangerous Dublin claims traces to gambling site list. And I saw this headline and I was like, what? What does that even mean? And a brutal attempt at photoshopping a decent picture for the article. Conor McGregor appears to have based one of his key views he expressed during his St. Patrick's Day White House visit on ranking European cities published by an online gambling company. In one of the only specific statistics he publicly referenced during his comments made over the course of his visit, McGregor said that after his meeting with President Donald Trump, in 10 years Dublin city centre has gone from one of the most safest cities in Europe to one of the most dangerous. Basis of this claim appears to be analysis published on January 2024 on a website called Online Betting Guide Tilted European Nightlife Index Casino. It appears that in an effort to gain media attention for this guide, a press release was circulated by the site. As part of the guide, the website published ranking of 50 European cities that were safety scored, with Dublin listed as 9th from the bottom. It appears in an effort to gain media attention. This guide press release was circulated by the site as a result of stories were published in the Irish media outlets like the Irish Mirror, the Sunday World and Dublin Live. So a fake press release from a gambling outlet trying to gain a little bit of attention for their website is the reason why Conor McGregor is citing the fact that Dublin is a dangerous city. So in other words, that is misinformation and disinformation put out there by some strange small website to gain a little bit of traction, and Conor McGregor gobbled it up because it's all misinformation and disinformation. This is the big sticking point that they decided to bring up and that they could get a home run with. Okay, so let's have a little look and see if the national broadcaster and whether anybody else thinks that Dublin might be dangerous, or is it just a fake press release that went out there. Dublin City is an increasingly dangerous place, warns Judge. Judge Melanie Greeley made her comments when she was sentencing a man for a violent, unprovoked attack. Canadian tourist left fighting for his life following a serious attack in Dublin city centre as cops investigate incident. Here we have the Journal. Unsafe laneway in Dublin city centre closed due to antisocial behaviour. Dublin in crisis. A once thriving capital, today the city centre is dangerous, dirty and downright depressing. Here we have the absolute embarrassment to the nation, Mary Lou McDonald, who's an opposition leader. A sitting politician in Ireland's Dáil has said that Dublin city centre is scourged with antisocial behaviour, drug dealing, gang intimidation. Mary Lou McDonald says that inner city communities are sick and tired of sense of threat and dread and a lack of support. I wonder, did Mary Lou McDonald get the press release from the pernicious gambling outlet who were trying to gain attention for themselves? So the national broadcaster, in their attempt to not go the ad hominem route and attack Conor McGregor for his haircut or for his criminal past or whatever it is, decided to try debunk one of his statements and failed miserably. Because not only is there sitting judges, active politicians and a lot more media members out there talking about how unsafe Dublin is, it wasn't just some press release from a gambling company trying to gain some sort of traction with some dodgy press release. That's bullshit. So with all these news articles, politicians, active sitting judges talking about how dangerous Ireland has become and Dublin specifically, what way would you say the leader came at that sort of information? Did he order more manpower to the city centre to try stop this? No, he actually talked about how dangerous it was for politicians, and he says that the vitriol towards politicians is getting more and more dangerous. Alright, I have you. So the amount of people that actively took part in the takedown of Conor McGregor over the last couple of days has been staggering, strange and weird. Against Jesus, some priests said. The Association of Catholic Priests became the latest group to condemn Conor McGregor's appearance at the White House and hit out at his comments. They said, as people who value both their Irishness and our faith, we wish to state clearly that Conor McGregor's speech in the Oval Office, where he purported to be speaking on behalf of the Irish people, was not representing what we value or hold dear. We believe that he confuses personal opinions with truth. Okay, misinformation, disinformation. The sentiments expressed by McGregor in his speech in the White House in respect to migrants and refugees are contrary to our understanding of the message of Jesus regarding the Catholic Church and its response to the totalitarianism put upon the people by the Irish government. In certain fractions, they do fall in behind the government and do their jobs as good little mouthpieces. Here's another example. Jesus is against Conor McGregor because of refugees and asylum seekers, apparently. And to all the God-fearing Irish men and women out there, just remember that don't open your mouth or you will be condemned, not only by the media, not only by the government, but your local priest will point his finger in your face and tell you as well that you're imagining the fact that it takes a week or two now to get an appointment with a doctor or a dentist. That if you go to a hospital, be prepared to sit on a trolley for 3, 4, 5 days before anybody sees you in absolute squalor and dirt. You know the way your kids or your grandkids can't rent a house, can't buy a house, can't go to a local park because there is barbecues set up for foreign nationals and they're usually playing an old cricket game in the local Irish park. Oh yeah, and we're also going to roll into your neighbourhood in the middle of the night with hundreds of armed police. We will beat you back into your house. We will beat you to the floor for not accepting multiculturalism like a good Catholic person should. So just keep your mouth shut about all them because it goes against what Jesus said. This is not Catholicism, this is not being a Christian, but there is some fantastic elements to the Catholic Church here in Ireland. These are the priests and the churches that refused to close the doors during the pandemic. And they also refuse cultural Marxism and choose not to talk about echo chamber left-wing talking points at any given chance. They don't try to make headlines on the front of the Irish Sun talking about how Jesus is against Conor McGregor. That's not what the church does. Not the real ones anyway. I want to read this Conor McGregor response from last night. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was on point. I thought it was extremely interesting to see where this goes. Ad hominem style attacks against me coming in hot by Ireland's government elites. Classic and glaringly obvious to everybody. Deflection tactics. What is your response and plan of action to issues I raised? Ireland wants to know. Which they do, and as I said, the polls show that Conor speaks for more Irish people than anybody in the Irish Parliament. American wants to see it as well, exclamation mark. This is where it got really interesting for me. Chip chop now fellas, don't make me keep going. Do what you're told by the people of Ireland and we will have no issues here. Do not, and it's over for you. I will publicly send my orders for you to implement, and mark my words, it will be made to be done. You have 12 days to present clear plan of action. On 1, dismantling Ireland's human trafficking racket. 2, mass deportation of dangerous criminals and radicalised imports, as well as all who entered illegally, as well as all who are a strain on the welfare system, who have made no effort to secure employment or assimilate with the Irish culture and value. Stringent border protection adjustments to stop this from ever happening again. Be the hero here and save yourselves and save Ireland, or my direct plan of action that Ireland and America wishes to see implemented will come in White House paper attached with my signature. Oh, lads. It was kind of reminiscent of one of the Bond villains, you know, when he's making these ultimatums before we have the huge crescendo at the end of one of them movies. But this is real life, and he's talking about, if my demands are not met, then you will have some White House headed paper arriving. And I think that scares the Irish government, even though they came out yesterday and publicly said that they don't give too much thought to what Conor McGregor said. But if they didn't give too much thought to what Conor McGregor said, how come every weak, pathetic reporter with a keyboard is scrambling left, right and centre for the last 24 hours? And we have every single politician talking about Conor McGregor, but they don't care apparently. But Conor does, and Donald Trump does, and it would be very interesting to see what he actually means in terms of, if my demands are not met in the next 12 days, then there will be a piece of paper with a signature arriving. I am very interested to see how that transpires, and I'm very interested to see Conor McGregor keep this energy up, keep holding their feet against the fire, keep speaking on behalf of the Irish people, and keep highlighting the fact that this Irish government's sole purpose at the moment is to quell free speech, eradicate the discourse that built this country, punish and slander every single Irish person for critically thinking. Keep highlighting this and it will embolden the Irish people to speak out even more. Let me know your thoughts down below if any of this made sense. And as I said, maybe hit like, subscribe, share if you'd like to. I also have a Patreon where you can support the channel and keep the show on the road over there. Every little helps. Cheers.